This is an extract from the Leader podcast by the Evening Standard. The whole thing is available on all major podcast providers.
If you vote for Biden, he will surrender your jobs to China. He will surrender your future to the virus.
The November 3 US presidential election is just over 2 weeks away, and both candidates have spent the weekend campaigning in states they're trying to flip. President Donald Trump began his Sunday in Nevada, once considered a battleground state, but has not swung for a Republican presidential candidate since 2004. Meanwhile, Mr. Biden attended Mass in Delaware before campaigning in North Carolina, where a Democrat hasn't won in a presidential race since Barack Obama in 2008. Lecturer at the UCL Centre for US Politics, Dr. Julie Norman, joins me now. Julie, how did these states vote last time?
Well, Bonnie, right now, both candidates, Biden and Trump, are really focused on the key swing states in the U.S. And those states are geographically dispersed across the United States. So we saw Biden in North Carolina, which is supposed to be a major state that will definitely be in play. Trump, meanwhile, was having a much more active campaign over the weekend. He had started in the Midwest, in Michigan, and also in Wisconsin, and then ended the weekend in Nevada, in Las Vegas, and we expect him to move on today to Arizona. So all those states are really key ones. Both candidates will want wins in all of those places.
And how did these states vote last time?
So North Carolina is one that Biden is hoping to take back for the Democrats. It hasn't gone for the Democrats since voting for Obama. In Michigan and Wisconsin, those states in the Midwest, in the Rust Belt, were states that that Clinton narrowly lost to Trump in 2016. So those are states that the Democrats are hoping to take back as well. In Nevada, Clinton won, but by a very small margin. So it's one that Democrats are really hoping to hang on to. And Arizona is one that they're hoping to take back as well.
And what are the key issues that Biden and Trump are trying to hone in on? How are they trying to convince voters?
Yeah, so right now we see very different messaging from both candidates. From Biden, we're really seeing a focus on the coronavirus, on the pandemic, on exuding a sense of empathy to the American people right now with how they've suffered not only from the virus, but from the economic crisis as well, and really trying to emphasize some clear plans and messaging around how he would address those conflicts or those crises. But it was interesting, in North Carolina, Biden also had a stronger message around racial justice. That isn't something that he's emphasized in all the states in which he's been campaigning, but he is hoping for a strong turnout from African Americans in North Carolina, and was emphasizing that point in particular around reforms around criminal justice and whatnot. So that was something he was hoping would resonate in that particular state. In Trump, we've seen much more of a rally kind of atmosphere in most of the places where he's campaigned. That tends to suit him well and tends to resonate well with his base. So there's not quite as much direct policy discussion as much as there is emphasizing, kind of excitement around Trump as his personality, around him, kind of as a person in that regard. And again, trying to underscore some of those same issues, but in a much more rally-like format.
And so what are the polls saying in each of these states that the candidates are really focusing in on?
Right now, Biden is ahead by almost 10 points in the national polls. But again, it's these key swing states that make the difference for the U.S. elections. Right now, Biden has an edge in most of the swing states, but it's in the single digits. It's relatively small. It's especially quite close in Florida and Arizona. So those are two states that we expect to see a lot of focus in these next few weeks. In the Midwest, it varies as well. Biden has the largest lead pie right now in Michigan, whereas Wisconsin and Ohio are much closer. And Pennsylvania is sitting around a 5% Biden lead, and that's another quite crucial state.
Trump is someone who likes to win. So how do you think these numbers are going to affect his campaign in the coming weeks?
Well, the numbers are certainly mobilizing the Trump campaign into full force in these last 2 weeks. We see it in the number of campaign events that Trump is holding, multiple events a day, crossing multiple states, which is very different than the Biden campaign right now, which is being a bit more conservative, slightly fewer events, definitely more social distancing and fewer people at those events. But it's interesting, Bonnie, right now, I think the Democrats are also feeling a bit uneasy, even though they're ahead in the polls. This is such a feeling of redux from 2016, and there's a real worry that you cannot ever be too comfortable and you can't take anything for granted. And I think Democrats are also making sure that voters still feel a sense of urgency and importance and don't feel that Biden has it in the bag, that they still need to come out and vote, whether that's by mail or early voting or in person. But this is not, you just cannot be complacent now, is the lesson that I think Democrats learned from 2016.
The debate is coming up on Thursday after the second one was scrapped. What can we expect this time round?
So this will be the first time that the candidates have met face-to-face since the very antagonistic debate back at the end of September. This will be a similar format to that debate. Trump's aides have suggested that Trump will kind of go with a bit more decorum than he did in the past, but that's always kind of a question mark with Trump. The debate will take place in Tennessee. It's moderated by NBC anchor Kristen Welker, and it will focus on, right now, the issues they're saying will be COVID, race, climate, and then some issues that we haven't heard as much about too, American families, American leadership, and also national security, which hasn't really come up too much yet in this election. So a little bit different in terms of the focus there.